I have a feeling we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Galactica, anywhere else. How you doing, Meridith?
I'm good. How are you? I hear that you have opened up. You are in one of those states where you can go out to dinner, you can get a haircut, you can do all those great kind of things.
Yes, it felt great to get a haircut. On the first day places could open, I was there. My wife was there. Then we went out to dinner. We had a sit-down dinner at a restaurant. You know, they serve you better when you got good haircuts.
It had to be exciting, though, to be to kind of watch the energy of the state coming back on and businesses starting to do. Did you have to do anything different in the restaurant?
Well, yeah, there was nothing on the table. It was. Okay. Yeah, it was a little bit of a surreal. The restaurant, they had taken out probably well over half the tables. There was only a couple of their parties in the restaurant. It wasn't even like they had a full menu. It was a little bit weird. But you know what? It just felt good to be able to go sit down inside a restaurant rather than doing curbside dining, as we've all been doing.
That's right. Well, I do think that marks kind of the beginning. I mean, things are starting to come back on. States are starting to open up, and I think that makes sales logic all the more important.
I think it does. And you know what's interesting is different states were opening up at different times. I was just doing a webinar just before this with a client, and some of the people were in Texas and they've been open now for a week, and other people in other states, no, they're still very much locked down. But there is kind of this energy of people coming back up. And I think it really points to the fact that, boy, you can't allow yourself to back off by any means. I mean, this is the time to power up even more.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go first.
Well, I was just gonna say that I think that I was doing a webinar series this week of really what you need to do to get through uncertain times. And just what you were talking about is that you've really got to keep your foot on the gas, is that it feels like there's a massive obstacle in front of us. Like, how could you possibly, in this environment, how could your business possibly be doing well unless you're in one of those lucky industries? But, if you keep that foot on the gas, you will find the crack in the crisis. And that's all it takes.
A crack, and there's always an opportunity. I'm amazed. We're having a little bit of internet difficulty here, but hey, that's just an obstacle for us to overcome, right?
That's right.
What I am finding, and this is what's very, very interesting, is salespeople who are really taking the time to listen, and they did their homework in the weeks leading up to right now, are really finding kind of some significant new opportunities, and basically, I'll say it, stealing business from competitors because they were asleep at the switch. They weren't doing anything.
Yeah, people are going to remember. People are going to remember who showed up in the middle of this crisis. I've really been taken in the last couple of weeks. I'm working on an article right now about really just some innovative things that companies are doing and how businesses are finding opportunities to make sales. There's a great story of a toy business. A lady owned a toy shop in her downtown community, really no website to buy online or anything. This pandemic hits and everything goes away. And she's really eking a living out now, delivering Easter baskets, birthday gifts, gearing up basically for Memorial Day and things like that. And she's really earning really pretty good income. So I'm really struck by how innovative and creative people have been. And Mark, we're doing this challenge with two of our brilliant friends, Dr. Mary Kelly and Sam Richter, called Pivot, the 5-day challenge. And I don't know about you, but I've been watching the comments and things in there today, and it's really the energy and the positivity of people and how much people want to get back out and go to work.
Is to get out there. Yeah.
Okay, you're freezing on me just a little bit. It must be that challenging internet in Omaha, Nebraska. So I guess that leaves me here right now doing this live session. Just a few things that you need to be doing to really get your business going. And look on
I
your
love
face.
that.
That's
They're
fantastic.
creating strategies that are allowing themselves to make it happen. So you know what?
Yeah.
There's always solutions out there. There's always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And entrepreneurs, sales professionals, we are some of the most creative people out there. So I love seeing those stories and how people are doing business.
Yeah, because if we're not out there hustling, we're not eating. It's just a direct correlation there. Anyway.
That's right.
But you know, what I'm amazed at is the number of salespeople who have shared with me success stories that they're having in their respective businesses. They're finding different solutions, different ways to do things. And you know what? This COVID period, I don't know how this all ends. Nobody knows how it ends. Is going to go down as this asterisk. And as I've been telling people, this is when we're all learning, we're all getting our MBA in sales. We are really learning how to sell because we're really having to learn how to do the basics, which we really forgot. That is listening to the customer. And just as you said, seeing an obstacle and overcoming it.
Yeah. I think, in good economic times, you're really an order taker, right? I mean, business is going to come to you and your job is just to fill the order. It's when we go through tough economic times that you have to sell. And I was talking with a client this morning about her team. And what we're really talking about is helping people understand just how important salespeople are right now. I mean, people have problems that they don't know how to solve. And that is really the definition of a great salesperson. I mean, we come in, we listen to the customer, we really identify the problem, and then we either match our products or services to solve that problem, or we go find other resources for them to solve that problem. But I don't think there's a time that we are needed more than in the time of a crisis.
And that's the definition of sales. It's delivering incremental opportunities to our customers. Going back to what you had mentioned earlier this week, that the two of us, along with two of our great peers, Sam and Mary Kelly, were doing the thing Pivot, the 5-day business challenge. And what is it we're doing? We're helping people find that way to pivot in their own respective business. And what's very interesting is if you think about that, would the four of us have done that if business was absolutely outstanding and wow, the world was just coming to us? No. But see, we saw an opportunity. Well, hey, I got to do a shout out to you because on the Tuesday session, you talked about weeds, needs, and seeds. And man, are there a lot of salespeople that are down in the weeds. They aren't even throwing out seeds. They're so buried in the weeds.
Let's just tell our listeners here today what a seeds, weeds, and needs is. It's absolutely one of my favorite tools. Obviously, one of your favorite too, Mark. But it's just a document that you use. That is, seeds are the things that are really working in your business right now. What do you need to keep doing? Your weeds are what are weighing you down. What do you need to stop doing? And needs are what do you need that you don't have that you need to bring into the business. And it's such a powerful tool right now because Mark, I was thinking about this the other day. How I sold in March is so different than how I'm selling in May, right? I mean, in March, I was really just, hey, how are you doing? How are things going? I didn't want to tread too strong on anybody because I knew everybody was trying to figure this pandemic out. And here I am in May, and I'm making some bold moves. And that seeds, weeds, and needs document makes you mindful of the things that are happening in the marketplace and maybe some of the things that you need to change to be effective, because I bet that how I sell in June is going to be different than how I'm selling in May.
Oh, I think without a doubt, that's the evolution of sales, the evolution of business. It's just really changing dramatically. So that's good.
It's exciting.
We got Yeah, it really is exciting. Sales Logic podcast. Hey, really cool.
Yeah.
We got a sponsor, VanillaSoft.
Yes,
is going to be our sponsor.
yeah. Talk a little bit about VanillaSoft. It's very exciting that we have a sponsor. Big shout out to VanillaSoft, Daryl, and the entire team there.
It is a real shout out. Boy, they shot a video this week for us, and we'll get it up there live, and we're going to kind of be embedding them into the podcast here in another week or so. But yeah, they said, why? Because you guys are delivering such logical answers to sales questions. And Daryl Trail was very excited. If you're not familiar with the product, what it really does is it really helps you manage your sales process, because so many times what happens is salespeople get buried under the minutia of who should they be reaching out to. And the VanillaSoft product is a very easy product to allow that to happen. So anyway, so it's good. Yeah. But
I want to say though, well, Mark, I got to add, because I am excited beyond the fact that the product is fantastic. I mean, I just love Daryl. I love the team there. They are so focused on adding value to their customers. Daryl does his podcast, which is just an unbelievable guest with really great information. So they are such a company that is just really transforming the way that companies really need to be positioning themselves in the marketplace. And they focus first on adding value, product second, and the rest takes care of itself.
That well said, because it is, you know, when you deliver value to your customers, that's what it's all about. That's where the whole process starts. Then the sale becomes very natural right after that. Now, you can't, it goes back to the whole thing. You cannot jam a product down somebody's throat. It just does not happen.
If you add value, the sale becomes logical, right? Which is probably a good transition to today's show.
I think with that, we should cue up Micah to say, Micah, run that opening video and let's do an episode of Sales Logic.
When we prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
Who has made a prospecting call today?
This is Sales Logic.
All right. Welcome to Sales Logic, the show where we talk about the strategies, the solutions, the techniques, the things that you need to know in today's marketplace to well sell logically. I'm Meridith Elliott Powell, and I am here with my co-host,
Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. And this is going to be another great episode.
Yeah, it is. Mark, we got some great stuff to talk about today. The topic today is we know how to sell virtually, but how do you get customers to buy virtually? And we're going to have a great conversation about that and why that is the topic. But Mark, every week we start off with a question from our audience. So tell our audience a little bit about how they send questions to us, how they get their questions answered.
Well, yes, and it really is kind of cool because we're getting questions in. It's really coming in. Easiest way is you can go to saleslogicpodcast.com and pop your question in right there. Or, hey, just go out to social media, put the question in, and hashtag SalesLogic. And we'll see it, and we'll pick it up. And we got a great question that came in from St. Louis. I don't have the gentleman's name here, but the question
it's Charlie Sutton.
Charlie Sutton. Thank you, Charlie. Big shout out to Charlie. How do you effectively renegotiate during this time? Ooh, and I'm sure he's being like right now in COVID. How do you renegotiate during this time?
How do you renegotiate in times of crisis? Well, I'm going to start by saying, number one, make sure you have to renegotiate. Don't just assume that you need to renegotiate. And with that, I mean that, if the customers come back and they've pushed back and they said, look, we need to renegotiate this a little bit, don't automatically go to price. You can add value in, give them some extras, things that they weren't expecting, to keep the price where it is. So don't automatically go to renegotiation, and don't automatically assume that negotiation means price.
I think you took some content right out of my first book, High Profit Selling, where I talk about that very specific thing. You're right. This is what's funny. People just assume, well, because somebody hit you up on negotiating on this, that you need to negotiate. No, there are so many other things. Here's the whole thing. If you feel you deliver value, if you feel you deliver outcome, why would you want to renegotiate? And if you do have to renegotiate, it is not a one-sided game. Oh, just cut your price. No. There are other ways that you can do it, just like you were saying, Meredith. I love it. But more importantly, there's things that you can get from it. I was talking with a gentleman the other day, and he said, hey, customer was absolute adamant about a price decrease. And even though he tried to work his way around it, he could not. But he said, I think I can probably get you a price decrease, but I'm going to need from you a couple of really solid referrals. And he was at least able to get that from them. So in other words, don't roll over and play dead. Throw your legs up in the air and say, oh, master, scratch my belly. No, you're not a puppy dog. No, you have stay in the game. Get something from it if you do have to negotiate.
Mark, you bring up a great point. And one thing that I always encourage my clients to do is take the time now, when you're not in the middle of a negotiation, to make a list of things that you want or need if you would have to reduce your price. What's going to make it worth it for you to reduce your price? I want you to do it now, not in the middle of a negotiation, because in the middle of a negotiation, we're desperate. And I get it. It's easy for us to sit here and say, don't renegotiate, but you could be in an industry where you're really desperate for work. You could be in an industry where something has been impacted really hard, or you could be selling into an industry that's been, dramatically impacted, and you just want to help. So do it at a time when you're not emotional, and really get that list set so you've got it ready. I always say to my clients, I'm happy to work with you. I'm going to send you a list of things that make it easy for us to work together. If you just choose 2 or 3, we can move this contract. Forward. I would say that in addition to that, really work to understand what your customer is looking for in the renegotiation. Are they really strapped for cash, or is it that problem that you're solving isn't as high on their urgency need list anymore? Figure out what they want, because if you can solve the problem that they have, it's going to open the door to allow you to get more in your negotiation.
Yeah. Or worst case, they just have an itch because they think they can get you to give them a discount. So they're going to, hey, let's see if we can get that discount. You bring up something very interesting, and we should do an episode on this somewhere down the road, and that is preparing to negotiate, because the worst time to prepare to negotiate is when you're in the midst of a negotiating. You do all your homework and understanding what is the need of the customer. What is the real, this is where it comes back to, I'm big on this, and the outcome. What's the outcome the customer's looking for? When you focus on that outcome, it's amazing how much easier it is to negotiate. And one thing that one caution I'll say, as I always tell people, you plan for the negotiation before you have to negotiate. But just because you plan to negotiate does not mean you will negotiate. Just because you buy fire insurance doesn't mean you want to go out and torture. We'll see people who will plan to negotiate, and then as soon as the customer begins to even sniff, that they immediately start negotiating. Oh, don't. But we'll kind of say that. We'll say that for another. We should jump into the topic, because the topic is really, really key. We know how to sell. Well, why don't you go ahead and set it up? Because this
All right, I'm going to set it up because this has been a passion for me, and I would love to say that I thought of it, but I didn't. It was our good friend Lisa Magnuson, and I was in a conversation with Lisa Magnuson. And if you all don't know Lisa Magnuson, you should check her out. She is the master of the of landing 5-figure deals. But we were in a conversation, and she said, everybody is so focused on how do you sell virtually, but she said where our energy really should be is on helping people buy virtually. And I thought it was brilliant when I heard it, because her point was, for most salespeople, selling virtually, it's not that different for us. I mean, most of us have been selling out of our car or out of our homes for years. I mean, certainly we have to do things via video, but we've been picking up the phone or sending emails. We've been comfortable with that. But we need to think about how much has changed for our buyer. And are we readily doing what we need to do to make the buying process comfortable for them? So, Mark, let's just talk a little bit about that. I mean, how has the experience changed for the buyer?
I got to stop you for just a second, because when you said the car, I thought you meant we've been living in a car. So good. I'm glad. Like, living in a van down by the river. Anyway, yeah. Here's the whole thing, and we've been talking about WFH, work from home. And then there's SFH, selling from home. But the really difficult one is BFH, buying from home. Because for the typical buyer, for them buying, that is really changed, because they're used to probably being in an office environment and being able to control that environment. Now they're at home, they're sitting at the kitchen table or something like that. And I've had this situation, I think you probably can relate to this. Most salespeople, because we've been working from home, we've got probably a pretty respectable office set up. But people who have not been working from home suddenly are thrust, and they're literally working at the kitchen counter. They're working at the kitchen table. And I think what this means is that make it very easy. We can't sit here and allow ourselves to get complex. In other words, if it's going to be by way of Zoom, that's fine. I was on a call this morning. I've been on 2 calls this morning. One was a sales call. Complex. But the other key piece is to be tolerant. As I was talking to one individual, suddenly it was very clear that his dog had to go outside. And it's like, okay, hold on. We'll stop here for just a moment to let the dog go outside. Totally get it. And came back. So you have to be, but I think the big thing is keeping it simple to allow the customer to make a decision without involving 10 other people.
Yeah. I do think it's first in really understanding their environment has changed. I mean, a lot of us were right in the middle of contracts when COVID hit, and our buyer went from being in an office surrounded by 10 people, being able to walk down the hall and ask somebody else for their opinion, to now all of a sudden being thrust into a home environment where they just don't have the access to not only their coworkers, but the tools and resources that they've been used to having access to. I think the bigger thing beyond that is, I don't care how important the sale was that you started before this pandemic, their pain points and their urgent needs have changed. And as salespeople, we need to back up and we need to really understand those things first. Like, what has changed in their environment? What's changed in their sales process? What's changed with their customers? What are they really thinking down the road? I had this happen with with a client of mine, that we were really working on their whole sales process before COVID hit. But the moment everything went remote, the CEO has me backed up, and now she has me working on helping her leadership team be more effective, because sales was not their urgent need anymore. It became, how do we keep our people productive? And we've never led in a remote environment. And if you're not paying attention to that, you come off like you're tone deaf, because you're not selling the right thing. And I think we really need to be cognizant of how much that environment has changed.
It really has changed, but you have to be careful of 2 extremes. One is what I'll call the blanket statement. Somebody makes a comment and it's like, wow, this is so that must be what it is everywhere. No, that's a blanket statement. Now, if you're selling blankets, it works. But unless you're selling blankets, it doesn't work. The other thing is taking that one comment and not only believing it's a blanket statement, but then repeating it with other people. I'll give you an example. I was on the phone yesterday with a client. We were talking about some of their customers. And one of their customers was having a real challenging time, even meeting payroll. And the VP of sales I was speaking to made the comment. He said, it was amazing because in our next meeting, in a meeting he had been in just a few hours earlier, a Zoom meeting, the salesperson said, well, man, all of our customers are having a hard time making payroll. And he said, it shocked the organization. It shocked the rest of the sales team. It was like, wait a minute, are all of our customers like this? And he immediately had to grab hold and back up the truck and get this person to explain. One person's comment does not become overarching. And you got to be careful on that. Got to be careful. We're selling virtually, and it's easy for us to hear things a little bit differently and put a lot more meat behind it. We still need to go through that process of verifying every comment made, which is easier today because people are a little more free to discuss, free to converse.
Yeah, Frida. And, and I think we also have to understand that we've got to reconvince the customer that we can meet their needs. I mean, when it comes to, if we sell a product that's got to be delivered, we've got to let them know that we can deliver it in a safe, in a safe type of way. We've got to convince them that we've still got the tools and resources in place and that our company is viable to still meet their needs. So we may have educated the customer before this pandemic about how we work and how the process will look, but it's not going to look exactly the same. And they've got a lot of questions and maybe even some anxiety in their mind. And we've got to resell those things too, to make sure that all the requirement and coming regulations that they're going to need to meet, that we're going to be able to service that and be the strong provider that we were, the same strong provider we were before this pandemic.
I got to share one very simple thing that we have to be careful of. Be careful of information that you send out. Be careful of information that you make available. I was doing some business with my bank, and they sent over some documents for me to sign. No problem, I'll sign them. They included another company's set of documents.
Oh, no.
It was like, yeah, and it's like, really? Now, I wasn't going to call it out. I mean, I've known this guy for a long time. He's a great guy. He did it by accident. I don't want to get him in trouble. But did I suddenly think a little bit less? Yeah. Be careful of what you send. And how many times have we seen this? Somebody goes to do a share screen. They're on a Zoom call and they do a share screen. And suddenly it's amazing what else pops up on their screen before they get to the share screen that they want.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're showing you all their emails and everything else that is on there, right? Not good. Hey, we should probably jump into the lightning round here in just a bit, but before we do that, let's talk about a couple things. Because again, questions coming in. Thank you for Charlie for the question you sent in at Sales Logic Podcast. Yep. We are putting these things out live, out on YouTube and out on Facebook and a number of other places. So we do invite you. We don't have a set time yet that we're doing it, but we're sure trying. But more importantly, what we really want you to do is to be sending your comments in and be sharing, because Sales Logic Podcast is really about keeping it very, very logical. And hey, you've got some cool stuff happening in your world. We're going to get to the lightning round here in just a second. Hang with me, people. But you give people a peek of one cool thing that you're doing. One cool thing that I'm working on right now. Well, I've got a couple of contracts in the works, but I think the most exciting thing is still my book with Dr. Mary Kelly, and that is Who Comes Next? Leadership Succession Planning Made Easy. And I would back that up by the 5-day challenge that we've got that we're probably going to repeat on Facebook that I'm doing with you and Sam and Mary as well, really helping businesses reimagine, reinvent, rebuild, and relaunch their businesses to emerge successful from this crisis. So that's what I'm working on. What about you, Mark?
Well, I'm still talking about that book, A Mind for Sales. That book is out there and it continues to do very, very well. I love it. We're developing some training programs around it. They're out there on our website. And make sure you subscribe to all the stuff Meridith has out on her site and stuff out on my site. But anyway, hey, let's jump into the lightning round. Now, we tied the lightning round in with kind of the topic of the day. Top things you can do to create a better virtual buying experience. Go.
All right, lightning round. Well, number one, understand this is where your competitive advantage lies. Everybody's trying to sell virtually, but very few are really trying to make the buying experience better. So I want you to start with empathy. Really begin by getting the lay of the land of understanding good, bad, and ugly the situation your buyer is in.
Along with that, I'm going to give you a couple of technical pieces. Just like if you're watching us live, you see that our cameras are at eye level. Have your camera at eye level. It's not looking down at your laptop, and invest in a decent microphone. Again, you notice, yes, Meridith and I are doing a podcast here, so of course we got good audio equipment, but invest in a good microphone. You go next.
Yeah. Redefine the obstacles. What are the obstacles to buying from you now? Is it that you used to go to lunch and you used to be selling this in person? Is it that they need to be able to make a committee decision? Is it that what you sell is now fifth on their list instead of first on their list? Reassess the situation, redefine the obstacles that you're facing. Because if you understand the obstacles, you can one by one delete those obstacles.
You may want to have that virtual buying experience be a telephone call, but be prepared for a Zoom call or WebEx or whatever you use at any time. That means from the waist up, you better look decent, because otherwise you're going to get caught face to face with a CEO of a company, and you're going to be wearing that T-shirt from that 10K that you ran 18 years ago.
No joke. That almost happened to me the other day. I decided last minute to get dressed before a call, and sure enough, it was video. Another one is, I'm going to take this from Mark, but keep it simple. Understand they may not be ready to buy a complex product with a complex sale. Be ready to go in small. Be ready to go in and solve a smaller issue, sell a smaller product, because it's going to earn you the right and earn you the trust to sell bigger down the road.
I love that one. And one final one here. Make it as simple as possible for the customer to be able to make the decision without involving a committee. Because when you involve the committee, when you involve more people, it's going to be much harder to get them on a call. Because surprisingly enough, during this COVID period, it's amazing how busy everyone's calendars are. So with that, we should go ahead and wrap this up. So I'm going to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell. I want to give one more shout out to Vanilla Soft. Thank you so much for sponsoring our show.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity, well, we had a little freeze there. This is the line where Meridith would go, uncertainty suddenly turns into your competitive advantage and the sale becomes logical. We'll see you,
got it,
next week. Thank you, Meridith.
See you next week for another episode of Sales Logic.